testing. 1, 2, 3.
Guess it drags. So testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Hi, out there, video land. James here. Just wanted to make my personally small town room commentary that I've been taking some advice. I've been watching some videos, learning history, learning from science, learning history, learning the Bible, and learning political things and spiritual things. And I'm going to wrap up. And first thing I'm going to start with something recently in the present day. Two things I'm going to cover. For the first in the present day, then I'm going to move down through history. Start with the present and move down through history. The two things I'm going to talk about is in the present is critical race theory and reparations. Start with these two. You've been in the African American community. You've been hearing this quite a bit. And you have seen some people have gotten upset over critical race theory. They believe that on one hand that is a setback in race relations. Some people don't want their children being taught on something that was of the past. This I'm going to talk about the opposite position. They want to redefine what was take away was going back into the 1600 beginning of America. One of these, even though it was a cheaper way of living back then, but one of the alternative things was back then when it came to different sects of people. One group of people that suffered the most, it was started out with was the original people, the Aborigine people of this land. Some people call them the Native American Indians. However, some people choose to call themselves that. Then you had the people that were brought over in slave ships. And, and during that 1500 till almost till 1950 or 60, you had that long span of time. Because there were still people, and even in the present time, there were still people, only black people to this day, that descendants of Africans. There was a case not too long ago that it was this man had, it was, I believe it was in it was down in South Carolina or Georgia, one of them states, where this guy owned this guy and kept him in, like people do with refugees, and had him and let him out and eat and things, and he practically worked for free. But majority of people think that slavery is in the past. There's some people that think that racism is just a metaphorical thing. They think that it really doesn't exist. And unfortunately, there are some people who look like the race that is the most treated down at the lower totem pole because of appearance, because recognize this, the people who are at the top in subconsciously how they see people of different ethnic backgrounds, because they come from a background where they lived around people that was majority that looked like them, and when it came to black people and other people, the only thing they can do is see them on TV or hear about them on the news, and maybe they might come across one, and that's as far as it go. And they might have been, maybe it was like one person that was very, very nice, one black person was really very loving and caring and everything. Just taking from inspiration. So they feel that you know, what did I do? I didn't do anything. I have no connection with something that happened back there during the early part of the century of America, and it jumps from decade to decade to 2 or 3 centuries and decades of a group of people that still, even up to this day, die at the hands of a government, and it has literally, even though that some of the people that look like the people that they despise, they have a talent with music, they have a talent with sport, they have a talent with training and everything, but they still despise people. They still, there's an animosity when it comes to black people. There still is. It's just that it's like I can't stand you, but I gotta let you go, but because I feel like I was told and shown that when I call you the N-word, that you pretty much is something on the lower totem pole. And there are some people that carry this mindset, but at the same time, it's like common sense would tell you, if you feel that way, why you go around people, why do you live in the most integrated area and you have the most inner bigotry that I ever do? I just don't get this with some people who don't particularly like people who are, but still, and then when you confront them with this, so they have a theory. No, I don't see things that way, because I'm what I am. It's almost like it's like a slogan. What I say and I say so. I'm not that way. I'm not, because I say so. I did. And even though that your experiences, and I can't relate to your experience, because even though it came from generations of trauma, but it's like, no, we need to get on and get with the past. But we need to get on with this and just forget about this. No, I'm not. And they feel like, no, I'm not going to compensate you, because I feel like I have nothing to do when it comes to the part of reparations. Okay, you've heard the argument. This is the left side. Now I'm about to give you the other side. Critical race theory. Why did the other side want it? Because when you're trying to deny and take away something that actually happened, that even up to the past, that when you look at poverty now in a certain sector of the community, when you see that there's evidence over decades and centuries and medical experiments and neighborhood redlining, Jim Crow laws that were designed for certain people. If an organization such as these people rise up, they had to keep them under a bondage, and this comes from the government. They had to be over these particular people. We had to control these people. We had to control these people that we see as property. And this is what most people, regardless of race, they don't understand. So they want to get rid of that and get rid of. Let's forget about that. Forget about your trauma. Forget that as an African American or black person, if you want to call yourself that the trauma that you went from generation after generation, that goes all the way back in your bloodline Forget about that. Forget about you might go across every other person that is in some kind of position, and they use their authority because they have a mindset that you still what they see on the news and what their grandpappy and their granddaddy told them that all you have to do is throw a rock and you hit an N-word across his head. But some people speak like that, and so you are so you see that. So when you go up there and say, yeah, these people are something, but yeah, even though that they have the musical ability, we need them to entertain us. No, we need them to entertain because they're funny people. They're very creative, but yet they're property. And it's till what I say so. And so the people who want to get rid of the race theory is called what I call the indirect racist. But with indirect racists agrees with the people who are directly racist. And they both came into agreement and said, yeah, we don't want this because we don't want our children knowing that the sins that we did. We don't want our children knowing that when you look at the old footage that there was a segregation in the U.S. Army. There were segregations that you had to be separate. You could have to get off. And you can hear this from black, and you can hear it from some white people that lived at the time. That black person had to get off the sidewalk. That the black person had to wait 3 or 4 hours just to get some groceries, or they could have to go to the bathroom. They had to go in the outhouse. While some people who was the opposite of them had the best restroom, the best water, and everything. But that's their point. And then you, as a black person, you heard this from generation after generation after generation after generation after generation. Your grandfather experienced, your father experienced, your father, and go all the way back. But the trauma that plays out is still affecting the atmosphere from today. And then people say, why can't they? But then you got people that's coming over here and say, why don't they uplift their up by the bootstraps? Oh, the Americans is great. But they forgot that they came on the back of these people that were treated like property. That got so much blood in the soil, that been hung up by the trees, been buck broken, and choose as like you would break an animal. This happened in this country. There was even sometimes, if you go down in the swamps of Florida and Louisiana, they took the slave's baby, and they traumatized the people that was African, that is and continually be the generations of African Americans that had they didn't have no choice because property didn't have. When your property, you don't matter. You say what I say. When I walk past you, you gotta smile. And if you don't smile, we're gonna have a problem. You gotta get lynched up on the tree. They don't want to tell you stuff like that. So they want to hide. They want to hide all that. And it's the spirit of it from back then, and from every single century to decade. It's the same descendants of the people that carry the same spirit to this day. And not just in that particular part of this country, but it didn't just arrive in the South. It went from come from south to the northern United States, because they really did. And then when you look at the Civil War, it was basically about economics. But usually they didn't want these folks getting out, because there was a fear that if they would give these slaves guns, they would turn against them. But they dumped them down so much. And then one group of people say, you come fight with me, even though you're fighting against me, because my brother is from South Carolina and I'm from New York, and so you help fight me, we'll liberate you. But at the same time, when you see a movie like Glory, The same slaves couldn't get proper weapon. The same slave couldn't get proper shoes. The same slaves couldn't get the proper pay. They had to be casualties of war. Funny how this stuff happens from even during that time, that even all the way up until we go into parts of the country to this day. We'll pay you. You'll be our slave. You'll be our labor, because we can't handle the labor out there in the cotton fields. So after the slave, some black people, finally went up north. The majority of the people went up north and left the cotton fields after certain, and some stayed behind and did it. The people down there still, the economy fell. So over a period of time, black people over a certain part of the century put the avenues in somewhere else. So we got to go get another deserving people. So we got to go down in the Caribbean islands. We got to go down to South America, and got to find somebody to help me. We'll pay them $3 an hour, because that's big money. But it's the same cycle of slavery from the time that from the blacks, that is the time this way. But that's all right, because because when it came to people of color, as they called it, people of color to some people are just their property. They're just property. They don't have feelings. Sometimes, and racist people, the people who carry this prejudice, have more empathy for an animal than they do for another human being. That because they have been conditioned to, they think that when something's dark and it's black, it's evil, and it's going to conquer, and it's going to outshine you, it's going to outwit you, it's going to outthink you, it's going to outsmart you, it's going to outswitch you in every way. So you have to keep the bondage of them down, and keep them thinking, and then you deny them and keep them in impoverished condition, and you can deny them and just keep them in the conditions, and don't worry, if they kill themselves off, that's all right. It's more of us. But this, then before this happened, it was in the 20s and the 30s. You couldn't stand. There were so many black people. This is just one group of people they had to find a way, and it was due politics, even to the same political party that funded what people call eugenics. The eugenics people. Now this is a whole different kind of group of people. These are white people that have millions and millions of dollars, and even they don't have a certain respect for some poor white people. But because eugenics, like your different individuals, if you look in the history of it, that there's some people that still carry them, and scientists and these billionaires that still carry their mindset till this day, and they want to off the population because they feel like there's too many poor people. If we have too many poor people on the planet, we have to go in and get the research. But all these poor people in parts of Africa, poor in the Caribbean and other places, and even some places here. So what can we do? When it came to this particular area, this country, the African American, the black person, it was just like the days. Before I won't go into history, but I don't bring up the history of it yet. But if they do, they're gonna outnumber us, and then so we have to put a law that you cannot have consensual sex with your slave. You can't have consensual sex with these group of people that you've been walking along. But yet there were men were broken, women were raped, men were raped, black women were raped, black men were raped, and black babies and children were raped. And there's documented, but they want to cover that up. It's starting, and they couldn't say anything. Why? Because they were property. But the trauma of the people who are descendants, people that look like me, are feeling the effects of it to this day. But and the government allow this thing to allow it to happen. The government didn't allow when these people left the cotton fields and farms and factories to form their own thing and say, do for yourself. Do for yourself then. In fact, you can have this your own land. So they were educated black people. They were educated. They want. They said, okay, we separate. We separate. There was a group of black people who separate themselves. But all it took was an accusation. One accusation that came from a woman that happens to be a white female. That all she had to do is she didn't get enough attention, and something didn't go wrong with this particular black person. He raped me in the hell of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Greenwood, Mississippi, in Homestead, Florida, and many other cities. Never recovered. So the trauma of our ancestors go from generation after generation after generation. But wait a minute. But that's just the past. That happened in 1921. It was well off after slavery, and it was alleged that it was a lie. No black man didn't rape this white woman. He just bumped up to her and he accidentally touched her, and bam! I screamed and screamed, and all to this day they had to feel the trauma of it. There are black people are still hearing stories after story after stories that their mom was living at that time and had to see this and what grandma told them. But that's all right, because you don't want to talk, but you don't want to hear about that history. But let's just drown it out. Let's just forgive somebody. Let's forget about it. How are you supposed to forgive about something? You ought to let's jump from generation after generation after generation. And then when the same people that you the generation for 5, 6 decades, 2 or 3 centuries ask for reparations not from the people, but from the government that waged war against them, medical practices against them, institutionalized against them, launched medical experiment against them, and there are people still coming out that we still find out until the century that go way back to the century, but nobody will talk about that. And you wonder why that and that they designed the areas of the ghettos. And even though that there was different groups of people at the ghettos, they were able to prosper them. No matter if there was the Irish, no matter if there was Italians, no matter if there was the Jews, but you must keep the blacks where they was at. And so this went on in every city in America. And then they pull this. They want equally. We'll bring a black person that will speak to our ways. We'll assign them a taskmaster that look like them. And this is the indirect racist people do to keep the masses of them. And I will throw a couple bucks at them to keep the masses of them from getting back where it originally was. We'll skip over that. And now, to this day, we'll replace them with other people. We'll replace them with other people from part of the world and feel oppressed. Damn these black people and what they 500 years of trauma and pain, and what we done to their relatives and what we done to their ancestors. Forget all that. Come on. Let's all have a holy moment. Come on, let me take you to La La Land. Wait a minute. Come on. Can I bring you to some basketball game? Can I drown you out with some chicken wings or something like that? What do you people like? Come on, dance for us. Dance for us. Dance for you people are really good about that. What's that latest dance you do? What's that latest run you do? You good entertainers. And what you getting mad for? Well, they don't. And Johnson, you're not black. Them other people, they're low class. They're the N-words. So they let you move it to the suburbs in the 60s and 70s and pump you up. But the people in the suburbs didn't even want you there. And no matter where you live, whether it's the north or in the south, even the town where I'm from, they put that in your mindset. But they have a state government, a county government, a local government that says, like a ancient Roman government, keep your eyes on these Hebrews. Keep your eyes on these black people. Because when they do something, we can't make it look like we're discriminating against them. Can we let a couple few up in there? Okay, we'll let a couple few in there. But the rest of them, keep them out. Keep them out because, look at all the crime that they do. I don't want their daughters with our sons and our sons with their daughters. This is what it comes down to. Then we'll pick one of you. Oh, I'm not. But the indirect racists say, I'm not racist. Oh no. I'm not racist. Why? Because I said so. It's like a Simon Says. So there's people that do, and they agree with the person, and he got the racist person. Yeah, that's why we put it on the laws of the land. No colored people, if you're black, stay in the back of the bus. If you're black, go in the service entrance. If you're black, I say you have to do. If you're black, what are you doing out this time of the day in this town? What you here for? You up to no good? Officer, and if the officer had a bad day, because he had a Simon Says so, you had to do what he said, and you couldn't speak back, you couldn't raise your voice because you're property. And even till this day, it's the same spirit. Critical race theory. Now, let's go back to carry this to the Bible. It was a group of people. Let's start. It's very common. You can check in your Bible. Go into the Old Testament, and you can tell the different groups of people. But there was one group of people that was blessed, but was hated by some, and they were the some Hebrews bearing known as Israel. Before they were called, they were Hebrews. And see, and so. The people at that time in the Bible, in the book of Genesis and Exodus, from all the Old Testament, they were people just wanting to get along and do their own thing and customize their own culture. And then when some of them dabble and cross territories, but they did, well, somebody saw something on them. Said, them people need to be our property. And this is where, and even though the first man that arrived, it was the very first man that arrived in Egypt. That was one nation. His name was Abraham. And from Abraham to Isaac, the Hebrews that was next to ancient Egypt, it was fine. But somewhere along the line, these Egyptians and this is in your word that it's too many of these people. It's too many. If they do, they're going to raise up a mighty army against us, and they got paranoid. And so the order came down from Egypt. So they did what they called they did their own abortion. So what they did was they said get the Hebrew people from the Hebrew women, kill off their babies, and let's spare some. What? And so, as you read in your Bible, this is what happened. Why? Because the Hebrews, like the Black Americans, according to to the Egyptians, they were property at some point. See, they get along at some point. But somewhere along the line, and even though that some of them look the same as the Egyptians, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. It was a certain group of people. And so you see, at the time, they put them in bondage over decades, over centuries, for 400 years. And the people in the Bible suffered trauma because when they were up in the land of Egypt, they were programmed spiritually. They were they had a mind, because they, of course, you know the story, because they disobeyed the Most High God. But when they got up under these people, spiritually they were worshiping idols. They had to have servants, and when the servants got out of line and wasn't working fast enough, they put a bullwhip to them. They put a bullwhip, and you better not, a Hebrew man better not be checking out an Egyptian woman, because if he did this Egyptian woman, it was instant death and instant murder. There was no, because he was property. I'm just going to sum it up. There's some chapters in the Bible, from Genesis to, I believe it's Deuteronomy. You know about that. I'm going to parallel these two stories to get about to bring this. So after they've been under this bondage for 450 years, and of course you know about God, even though that God had to bring a man who was of their tribe up under an Egyptian system and learn their system and be promoted to the system. The Moses all the way down to the Joseph. And even though that of course Joseph had children with an Egyptian wife, and I believe it was Abraham that had an Egyptian wife, and had an Egyptian woman, and you know the story about that. But even though during that time between that time until after that time and going through the Old Testament, there was trauma. There were trauma in the 400 and something year, because the Hebrews were beaten. They were robbed of their wages. And he wasn't indentured servant. They were beaten. And there was one story. That's why when the Hebrew didn't do something right, Moses murdered one, being raised up under an Egyptian society, saw something, stirred something up in him, and he ended up murdering one of the Egyptians. You know the story about that. Moses had to flee for his life. I say this to say this. Now, if you take it from the Egyptians' perspective, and you can look at it this way, well, obviously, they had favor. The Hebrew had talent. The Israel, they were named Israel. They had talent. Obviously they married their women. And he said, wait, but they didn't. But when it came to reparation, they wasn't going to give reparations. No. Why? Because the Egyptians, the way they think today, they're proper, they're people. You're my slave. You're my inward. You're less than me. You're lower than me. And I told all the nations, and even though some of you, I have sold you to other nations, and programmed in their mind, you're lower than the low of us. And you can make this argument. Someone can make this really intelligent argument that they probably think that they was going to last. Their dynasty was going to last forever and ever. They thought they could get away with this and say they can do the read fact and say, wait a minute, God, and probably what some Egyptians say, I didn't kill all the Egyptians. Wait a minute, that's not why you bring up the past. Why you do that? What, that didn't happen. Then they probably would have had the same kind of mindset, because they were already with a different persona against these other people. Some of them had this persona that you're just probably, even though you're blessed, but the reality is you're still property, because even though they had the same texture of skin, they still thought them as property. When you read the scriptures, and it's not till the Creator of all things told them to let His people go. They had an arrogance like, let the people go. When his representatives in the land, that was Moses and his brother, let the people go. Well, whatever. You're property. Okay, we'll give you. And then so they so-called, well, we're gonna make an arrangement with you. Well, you know how the way the story goes. You can go out, but leave your wives and leave your children, and so go for it. And you know, Moses go back in the council with with the Creator, and the Creator, you know, Most High Most God told him, no, I want the women and the children. Tell Pharaoh, let my people go. Oh, here come Moses, you know, stammering, stuttering, needing Abraham, brothers helping how to explain. Let us go and separate ourselves. Oh, you know, basically, you know, but the Bible said that he hardened up his heart. So finally, it took something, death, to say, okay, it took death to let Moses and the people go. It took death. It took something, because what took that? Because you see all the plagues, the agriculture, people coming down with sick, flies, and if you read some scripture, and you read this is in your Bible. I'm just gonna sum it all up. I ain't gonna throw those. If you read the whole Bible, you know where I'm going with it. But I'm trying to wrap this up in some. So, and it tells the story how that even God recorded the man's heart, saying that he stick. So after the Pharaohs let them go, you know, and even it got so bad that Pharaoh's first son had to die, and God broke him, because these Egyptians had all the power of their gods and their so-called and their wealth, and they had it the same arrogance that we see today when it comes to the same similar people. Their property, we can't let them go. But until something tragic caused the Pharaoh, the couple pharaohs at the time, it happened with Abraham. He had to get up out of it. Nothing happened to him. But when Moses left and all the children left, and took the wealth of the Egyptians, and see what the Egyptians got mad. The Egyptians got mad, and it's in the Bible. This story that always played the play. Once they realize they go, not only that they set out to go after the children of the but this what they want to get to them, kill half of them, and put them back in bondage, and get the stuff that well, you know the story about that. God didn't let that happen. He opened up the wall, boom, and boom, the water took them out. Until this day, there's people still finding remnants of the chariots in that part of the world, under the water. And that's God saying this really did happen. It really did happen. There's stuff that in the Bible, there's people that found a chariot. If I could pull up the video, they found a chariot wheel of an ancient Egypt writing. During that time, in that part of the area, they did this not too long ago. say this. Say that. So basically, even when the children got free, and the civilizations of Egypt, who kept worshiping false idols, false gods, later on you see that the original Egyptians got faded out. And there's another brand of people that are not Egyptians that can't even, the writing is different from the people that's in the land now. It's even the language, so they're not really the origins of the Egyptian. They go back so many probably different centuries. But the people, because you have to figure out a way to translate that with the writings in the tombs down there and everything. And that's a whole nother story in itself. But I say this to say this. Once the people left, they still had the story in the desert. There was conflict. They didn't want to follow Moses' plan. There was envies and jealousy. At one point, they wouldn't listen to Moses when God was giving direct orders. God was making all these different miracles. They had walked the desert for 40 some years. Their clothes didn't rot. Their shoes were intact. Their clothes was intact. He provided water in the desert. He provided manna from heaven. He did miracles if they got sick, and got them away from an oppressive system. And they still got, and the children at that time, during Moses' time, they got a little bit up in themselves. And after they celebrate because the Egyptians, most of them walked out, and some of the ones that joined in with the children of Israel, and Israel now, they say, because they weren't all, most of them weren't all born with it, was agree with what the Pharaoh was doing, because even there was some Egyptians at that time that was mixed in with the multitude that left, that obviously that they saw this, that they seen that these people were blessed, and there was Egyptians that wanted to do the right thing, and so they some of them probably were in on the blessing. Plus you got to consider Joseph was married to one. And then some of them that were mixed in with Aaron, his brother, and the whole, they were mixed. It was a good mixture together. That a good integrated. Even after all that. So you look at that and say, okay, what's the point? Now we can say that, let's erase that. Let's flip that history around. No, it's because they probably gonna do. They probably would do this in the future about God. Oh no, it wasn't like that. It was an agreement. No, that guy that get beat out there by that Egyptian taskmaster. Oh, he got caught stealing or something, and they'll make up some excuse like that. But why was they pressed before? Well, they agreed to. How do we know? And even if the evidence is put in their face and put in the book for over 2,000 years, they still gonna deny it. They still gonna deny it. So they will probably try to make the Egyptians indirect today, and direct and indirect. But if the people of today see that what happened to the ancient Egyptians, they're gone. They're gone into some of the people are bloodline or in some other people. There's no original Egyptians from generation after their generation was cut off. Ancient Egyptians come off, and then another civilization came in and took over and replaced them because of the false idol and false worship system. So it fell up under another kingdom. Then you see the people today, Egyptian. You see that they look similar to the Ishmael, which is the descendants of Ishmael, but they look Arab. Pretty much they look Arabic looking, even the complexion. Because at the time, the children of Israel, and it showed Egypt had dark complexion. They was out there in 110 degrees sun, you know, in the desert. So they were next to the equator, like probably near the equator, pretty much. So they had to have a dark complexion. And they don't want to talk about this because they don't want to show this in the movies, because they have to show actors who are fair-skinned, blonde hair, blue eyes, put some special makeup to make them look like the people, so they can keep the ideology that this is what the Egyptians look like. Because when you see the movie and you see the image, you picture the image looking like the people, and then they have the nerve to claim that they want to be both sides of the people, and that all the dark races of people, black people, were just all Hamites. All Hamites. And this is why you hear the word white supremacy, because it's like because when it comes to the Hamites, the black race, even in religion, is just like irrelevant, like the trees. It's that you just make the scenery. You're the property of the property, but you're not really equal to me. And this is how the way some of us feel. Not all of us, but some of us who are understanding. Because I have a saying that after this, and I'm going to go into the other different effects. When you black in America, your grandfather is told, your grandmother told you, if you work hard, you apply yourself, and it does work, you will get to some point. You will get what you want. That's true. Like the other people told you, you can make it if you try. But they don't tell you if you don't have a favor of God, you're not gonna get it. Because in society where black people is viewed as invisible by Simon Says society, says, you invisible to me till I make you visible. You are property to me till I make you a person. That's what it is. And people who carry this spirit and carry this mindset see that this someone is a different hair texture, skin pigmentation, but they still carry from what their daddy and granddaddy is that they N-words. These people are lower than the property, they're lower than the bugs. And so they got the mindset, but they got a certain talent that we can manipulate all. Because even the supremacists have even think that the people carry the supremacist attitude is that you see how the way they dress and how the way they conduct themselves and how the way they shuck and jive and everything, they have no sense of intelligence. And that's how there are some people who are racist and indirect racists view black people that way. And they've taught this to other nationalities of people that have come across America. See, that's why they may look good on the video, basketball court, the football game, the rap music, the new dances, new trains, and whatever slang. That's cool. But to some people, you better not bring one home with you. But we all people, we all the same. Not when it comes to indirect race people. People are racist and they agree with the racist people. But when the racist people get out of hand, it's like, wait a minute, you jumped off cold. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing? We're supposed to keep. We don't want them to really let them know. We want to keep them in bondage for another 400 years. We want to keep them in a mental bondage for 400 years. No, they're not equal. They're property. And this is where the N word comes in. And they tell other nations that they're lower people. But what about Oprah Winfrey, Michael Jackson, LeBron James? Aren't they? In America, until I say so, there are some people who are white, carry this mindset. They carry this mindset. And say, oh, wait, no. And then when you confront it and bring out the evidence, it's like, it's like a demon don't want to be spotted. It's like a roach that don't want to be, you say, oh, you see me, let me go run back in the dark. If I'm caught, let me hide, deflect. So it doesn't matter what political party it is. It doesn't matter because, and I'm not saying look at everybody of a particular group of people the same way, but you're going to understand the signs of it. Because even though you could have someone like a Donald Trump who direct with it, you got a Joe Biden who's coming up behind you, and they can come and say, well, see, I was best friends with Barack Obama, and you see how we bumped the jig, and I bumped the jig with the Black Caucus. But reality, when you look at Joe Biden and you look at his history, when it came to black men, whether they were conservative, Democrat, liberal, right wing, he saw them as property. And he puts on a face. No, I'm not going to give you that. I'm going to tell you, if you don't vote for me, you're not black enough. Coming from a Democrat. You have Hillary Clinton. This is in politics. That agrees with the eugenics. Margaret Sanger. They're supposed to be reproductive services for women. What we found out later on is that when you look at the history of it, before it got to poor other people, before it got to poor white people and other people, you got to kill off the Hebrews. You have to kill off the blacks. Because we don't want to keep them. We have to dumb them down. And there's too many on the system. The alternative way is to offer them, we'll put this in the budget, we'll give them free housing, we'll give them free food, we'll give them something, but they have to kill the child. Why? It's the same spirit that the pharaohs had, because they go outnumber us. Now it jumps up to another division. Let them put them as the face of alternative lifestyle. Let them of debauchery of everything. Why? Because they're good entertainers. Indirect racists agrees with direct racists on that. Your property. Look at the history. Look at the history of this, and this is what they don't want to tell their children. And somewhere along the line, that generation is going to figure out this is wrong. This is not right. What you thinking? You got to understand. They're black. I heard a girl we post a video. But this was wrong what they did to that guy on TV putting his neck on flat. You gotta understand, their property. It's the old system. George Floyd was just property. To them, to the racist people, that's why they mocked him. That's why they had some people like, look, they're shoving on George Floyd's neck. Because these people don't, I'm not racist. Then you confront, are you racist? Oh, I'm not racist. Why are you mocking the man who was choked out to death? Whoa. And then they'll throw someone black in there who don't have too much self-esteem. Wait a minute. I like black people. Hey, I like this conservative guy over here, whether it's Jesse Peterson or Candace Owens or something like that, because he had a criminal record. Even if he had a criminal record, does he deserve death? Does he deserve death? Even if he... No. That's how it really is. And really, black people don't. There are black people in this country just don't trust, particularly white people, until we see where you stand. Are you for the indirect, or are you direct, or are you straight down the middle? Or are you about what's right, what's wrong? That's the truth. This is the truth. Or do you have relatives and friends and I see you, but do you have the one that say only when I see them and acknowledge them, otherwise they're invisible to me, and I'm scared of them because I don't know what to say to them. I mean, it's. In fact, let's get our mind. Let's look for the aliens. The topic. Well, it doesn't matter if you're black, purple, or green. And I love it with this one woman who was a white woman, Caucasian woman, and who talked about the racial. The older woman talking, but she said that even as a white woman, when she's out here, white people saying that I don't see color. She said that even she know that's bullshit, and she's close to 90-some years old, been teaching race theory about racism. Basically, it's education and constitution. But so there's some people that understand it, and then they don't tell you what she went through because she jumped off cold. You're supposed to be for us. You're supposed to have our way of thinking. Now these people are property. They're trouble. You want them in your neighborhood. You want them in your family. This is what they probably told this woman. And so when she agreed with it, and anytime when you're a white person that that do the right thing and see people as people, you're gonna have conflict with people that look like you, and you're gonna find the ones that's indirect because there's no black people around. There's no black people around, so they can just say anything they want. They might pop off the N-word, might call them a porch monkey, a coon, an N-word. It's nothing. They flow just like that because hey, ain't nobody black in them. No one black presently, right? There's some people like that, and you're gonna be. And if you don't know about racism, if you any other color, trust me, it don't always come directly to you. It comes indirectly to you. And how does it connects to that? Because it's the Simon Says So says, let's take this out. But the thing about it is, ladies and gentlemen, the spirit of racism in some people was directly, indirectly, because it was taught. It was taught for people to see people that way. It was taught to hate black people, some black people and other people, because one, it was fear. Number two, it was if we didn't do this, it'd be just like Chicago. It'd be just like that. We want part of that. See, now they're throwing some stuff like that out, but they created the situation that caused. They created the situation. The red line, Jim Crow, put these people in poverty, and they say lift yourself by a bootstrap. And then when a few black people do something, who want to do the right thing and try to change the system, look at them, give it to them black people. No, just take out the taxations and take out the business, take out the jobs, let it crash. Then the most cruelest thing, even though some people choose to do this, to use illicit drugs and alcohol, and it leads to domestic violence, that led to crime. They knew they was doing, and then you use your police like a military tactic to take them out, like they did in ancient Egypt, put them to death. But we're not racist though. You see, so even if they took it out of the schools, even if they took it, the spirit of it is still in the land. There are black people still getting mysteriously suicide in trees across this country. And say this guy must have committed suicide. And then his family said, no, we knew him too well. There are people still lynching people. See, the spirit of it don't go away. It doesn't go away. But they want to let you, let's take it out of school. And other people are going to come here and look down on us. Their eyes is going to start open to see that the indirect and direct racist people, because now they get a little bit of taste of it in the Asian community. They get a little bit in the Hispanic community and people in the different religions of Muslims and the different other groups, because this and the indirect racist saying, hold on, racist, you're jumping off code. Now you one of them lovers of them people, you in love, aren't you? Talk about, I just want to do the right thing. You're in lover. Now when they view someone that look like them the same way, that want to do the right thing and see people as people, then they look down upon them because they say, wait a minute, you jump off this code. I'm white, you're white, we both have the Simon said so. We got had the Simon said so, or all these different nationalities. Now you jumped off code. I don't know what's wrong with you. You changed over the years. You got that super liberated, and they use these different code terms. They code terms, right? And they argue about who's Republican, and they argue about who's Democrat, and they argue about who's left wing, right wing. But in the end, it's all of the same bird. Because it might be a group of people who are white, so let's do this the right way. Let's compensate and do the right thing, because injustice has been done. There have been people who are white people that spoke up and said there has been justice has been done. I've seen it in the medical community. I've seen it in the neighborhoods. I've seen it, but they get mad at the white people, the white person who put this out over the internet and everything, and they call them the in-lover. And you just super liberal, and you lower than them, and it's always been like that, because even the people who did the right thing, who were white, were put to death like the blacks. John Brown, there were abolitionists that were put to death with the blacks, white abolitionists. You are dealing with a system that they say don't even do it on. And even though there was a certain, I don't know if it's the Canaanites or the Amish, one of them crew, they knew that slavery was wrong. They said you need to do the right. But even the counter as white, they knew that was wrong. They didn't want to be a part. Probably didn't really want to be part of it, because I believe like the Amish or the Canaanite people, whoever that, I think it was the Canaanites, I'm not sure, want to do the right thing to say, this is wrong. They witnessed it doing in that early era of America, and to see someone come, even though they have a different spiritual belief system than the average white person, an average thinking person, in their society to themselves, even they knew that was wrong. So it's not all people. It's not all people. But when it comes, so how some black people see it, not all of us, when it comes to white people, now, after saying, no, let's get over it, forget your trauma and your pain from your generations of your family, and you got some black people that believe it or not sign along with this too. Well, what that's going to do with it? What's that got to do with it? Bruh. Well, I could just pull it myself. I admit to myself, well, you were just one of the one. You was one of the lucky ones. Not everybody's lucky. Now they try to keep they don't want the feel even. Keep less and keep them down. I learned this a long time ago. And I'll give you a little bit about my background. Like a little kid, like any other child, I came from working class parents. My mom worked at a factory. Grandparents worked hard, and uncles, aunts, everybody worked hard. Family worked hard. My father and some relatives is even serving the service. Even a couple of them veterans. I lived with my mom because my dad then broke up. But as I was growing up on the streets of Youngstown, this is Youngstown, Ohio, I learned, I understood about racism, but I'm more know about now things that I'm more awoke and aware of things now. I thought I did until the last 10 years God has showed me what indirect racism is. And I used to be one of the people that think it's direct, it's segregation down south, blah blah this. No. See, I'm glad to be up north. But no. Oh no. You know, one thing I can say about the people, some of them that were white down south, they direct with it. The ones up here in Ohio and in other northern states and places, they indirect with it. And they want some did want, even it goes back centuries too. They wanted to keep the blacks down there where they was at. It wasn't a whole bunch of white people wanted to see doing the 61 seat. No. If that was the case, then they wouldn't have riots in Chicago. They would have rising in the different northern cities, like they do in the southern cities, in the midwestern cities. Whether you a gray coat or you a blue coat, because property matters. But getting back to what I'm saying. Sorry, kind of stared off it that way. When I lived in the city, I went to inner city schools in the 70s and the 80s. You know, education was pretty decent. When I got to my high school years, I saw a change. Because even though my mom moved around a lot, being it was called Rand High School back then. It was considered in the city where most of your students were black, and 20% were white and other people. And then I ventured off to another school on the outskirts, was Campbell, and it was pretty much next to the east side. So you start going to another store because it was mostly white. Demographic is Greek, black, and they used to get into some quarrels sometimes. They used to have this thing there about that. When I got to Liberty High School in Youngstown, Ohio, I saw a difference. Even the teaching was different. And this is in the 80s. This was in the 80s. What I learned is, when you the few black people in the suburb, white people, there's a demographic of the white people that look at you like this. You're one of us, but the rest of them are niggers. Hate to put it to you like that way. The ones in the city are niggers. That's the truth. And this the kind of mentality when the people lived in the Youngstown, east side, west side, north side, whatever. That's how they see you. And not all of them, but some of them did. And so you think that you one of these Negroes that just think that, but it's cool for a while. I feel them. But when you get to these people, and you're the only black person around some of these people that they don't know how to be around black people, and they gotta maybe make some watermelon jokes, or tell you, come over and James, you're too dark, you need to come in towards light so we can and smile so we can see your teeth. But that's all right. We're not racist though. Oh, we're not racist. Oh no, that's just a joke, And I've learned more ethnic, racial terms being around some of these indirect people. I mean, the N word from N-reg to in tree and in this and in that and that's why I got to see more about racism. But when I was around my inner city, only thing I did was like your typical, like you got your bullies, you got your geeks, your squad, but it was never no, you fit it to your squad. But one good thing about it was I started out in the city. I'm a black man, I'm a black male. But when you get, but the sad thing is, and I even had this trouble when I was at church, 'cause I used to go to a Catholic church. And again, sometimes I started out being the only black kid in the CCD class. It wasn't really a good time, because let me explain to you, some people, and here we're supposed to be in church, right? Catholic church. Don't matter, it's not all Catholic churches and anything. But there was a lot of indirect race people. How was they indirect, James? See, indirect people some people in the suburbs don't want to be seen talking to you unless they got a group of people around them. And it goes back to, that's why I say you're visible till I choose that you are invisible to me. This is what I went to when I went to Sunday school class and being a Catholic at that time. And I was the only kid, and I tried to be nice. I was quiet, I'm trying to be a likable person, but it didn't matter because you're black. It didn't matter if your mother was working. It didn't matter. It's just the subconscious of these people. You're not us. They would have little things that I found out later on. They didn't invite me. In fact, frankly, when I look back, I don't care. And I remember my senior year of high school, I didn't go back. Because why do I got to keep subjecting myself to something like that? Let me tell you something. I ain't all pro-black. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. But I'm real. I learned to be real over time because reality is real. And I have made videos on this. Let me tell you something. As long as I'm in the skin, till the day I leave this earth, I'm always going to be a black man. And I'm always going to come across people, some will see you as equal in that mainstream society, but some will always see you as property, like they did in ancient times of Egypt. That's a fact. And it's just something that's in generation in them. Some people who have that inner prejudice is in them. They've been around, either their mama had it, their daddy had it, their granddaddy had it, or their friends had it, or somebody who's around there. And when they see people on TV, they see black people on TV, that's how it is. It's straight up. That's how what it is. And and then it's like, I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to be that way. But there's a difference, because it could be individuals don't really look at life that way, but they get penalized because they're around people who are indirect racist, and they're taught to see indirect racist. And I've seen that throughout my life. So even though I'll never have a criminal record, even though my mom, dad worked, my dad drank a lot of alcohol like anybody else, and my mom, she had no substance abuse. It don't matter that she was a single mom. It don't matter at the end of the day what environment is, because I'm going through the same racist problems as someone who is a black kid that have parents, his homes is jacked up, whose family jacked up, his neighborhood's jacked up. It don't matter if he didn't graduate from high school or whatever, because when I cross that society, when I cross that line, it might be a few might like you. Just a few might like you. But there's 100,000 that see you as direct racist and indirect racist people. And this is where you hear a lot of slogan, the term Karens online. Karens and Kens online. Because they feel like, what are you doing? They gotta know what you gotta do, what you're doing, what you gotta see, what you're up to. Because it's something about you. Are you one of those people that are gonna break in my car and rape my daughter and rape my wife? And you gonna steal something? I know how so. Hey, I'll give you a basketball. Don't take anything from me. Indirect racist people. So it don't matter. It don't matter. It don't matter. White supremacy is just white supremacy. But some people carry the white supremacy, who happens to be white, have the ideology of supremacy playing in them when they're a child, when they taken out in majority places that people that look like them and live around that look like them. That's a fact. You don't have people, other races of people, because you out there. So they naturally can't relate to you, right? So, but if someone was sitting around and they sit around the bonfire and say, "Come on, let's do what them brothers do." What's that rap shit that them blacks be doing? You don't think they talk like that? There's some people out there that do. They won't say this to you. Hell, they call me. Some guy cut me off. Some N-word cut me off. Some Nick cut me off. There are white people that talk like this. And sometimes when they get liquored up and get them on the back day, the true self come up out of them. So to sum this all up, no matter if it's direct or indirect, the spirit of racism, so you can't never hide it. So if they took it out of the schools, it's in the teachers, in some teachers, because black children have a certain level of learning and not coordinating than in the white children. This is what they do. This is what they do. They're punished, one punished other than the other, subconsciously. This black boy, I got to punish him and put the fear of God in him, and then throw this black girl. Not like you properly discipline every child, whether they're good or bad, whatever the shade of their skin is, or texture of their hair. You see critical race theory, and it's going to confuse the black children, because they're not going to understand this, but they're going to experience it. Because if they in some school system throughout America, some racist teacher is going to do this to them. It's already been shown. They're going to find out somewhere, and it's the only person going to understand it if you get someone who's subconsciously aware of it, who's going to do the right thing. Could be a white person, it might be a black person. Critical, the spirit, because it's to hold back. Well, we'll let Hamul go, but keep Leroy back, because in Leroy, and Elroy, and Antone, some black kid, all we gonna know, why don't we just throw a couple basketballs at you and just, because that's what you people are good at. I mean, and make a good rap music and good career out of it, because that's all what you're good at. No, we're not gonna teach you coding. No, we're not gonna teach you the things that we want our children to subscribe in the suburbs. Nobody wants to compete. Why? Because critical race theory says that black children have less intelligence than white children. I mean, this is what they think. The people who object to don't want to teach the stuff about slavery. They don't want their kids knowing this. They don't want their kids to know that, yeah, the kid that's next to you, he comes from a generation of low-hanging fruit. But don't tell them though. We don't want them to really know that they want low-hanging fruit. So we don't want them to see that we have put trauma after trauma, and that's why they acting out like that. Why? Maybe it's something, I don't know. Maybe something is some delusional. It's the paranoid. Because as far as they're concerned, in the Simon Says world, and they're visible, they're invisible till I make them invisible. And that's how indirect racists have in common with the racist people. And an indirect racist is not as direct with the racist. See, right? A racist person, let's say you have two white guys, an indirect and a racist. Racist just come out and tell you he's skinhead, he claimed whatever. No, I don't. I think blacks are superior race. They get right on TV and tell you. He get right on. He get like skinhead, but it could be someone's an in the closet nationalist. So wait a minute. But the parents carry the same mentality as the racist ones do. You say, no, I don't think that we should reward them. I mean, besides, I didn't do anything wrong, and knowing that it's the government that it's not going to cost the average white person, but it's going to be the government that will get reparations. It's not going to cost the white person anything. So it's going to affect my family. It's going to affect no. It's written what is right. What you did right for the Japanese, what you did right for certain Native American Indians, what you did right for people that are under the religion of Jews from Poland or Hungary. It's the same kind of consequences and apology and trade and millions of dollars to this day that compensate. Do what is right, because you treat them like property, but you made them human. And you kept the blacks continually subhuman property till it speak. And then when the black person who has the intelligence to articulate this to you, they can't grab that because they got this in their mind. I can't believe you tell me that these black people why they so smart? Why they come with the most intelligent I can't argue with this. No, they're dumb. They're ignorant. They're ignorant as an ox. No, that they're dumb. No, that they're property. They lower than a roach. They're property. So that's why we call them the N-word, to keep them down. They need to entertain us. No, they're not human. Why? Because it's like this. Like I'm saying, whatever's invisible, Simon says, till I say that they're visible, invisible. And that's the whole mindset of the ones who want to take out that teaching. They want to pay reparations. So here's what's going to happen. Just like history. You're going to have to pay. If you don't pay, you're going to suffer like Egypt. Like any other civilization who had the boost enough to say, no, I'm not giving these people what I consider as property. They lowered it low. They lowered, no. We're going to write them out of history. We're going to take it out of history, and that's it. But you don't understand the God of just. He don't forget. And as you systematically, this country have done this to one of the groups of people, and what happened, and I have to be in that margin of groups of people, be a part of the ethnic, skin, and racial group, see the consequences got to come. The consequences got to come. It came for children. It came on Egyptians. No. And the Bible said that how he hardened up the Pharaoh's heart. Pharaoh, he had to. I'm king on this land. I got all the money, all the wealth, and all the resources. I got everything. I ain't got to do nothing to these people. They meaningless. I'll kill one and let another one live, because just like you do a cow, a horse, a dog, There's people that see black people the same way. And there's some people of all races see this. That's what it's all about. That's what it's about. That's why you hear, why does it keep talking about it ain't gonna solve it, it ain't gonna solve it, but you keep seeing incidents after incident on social media. Sometimes they even make it the news. Here they go crying again. And the ones who say, here they go crying again, that's the same kind of mentality that when Israel was out there in the desert. Here they go crying again. Why don't they just shut up and just die off? But you gotta cry, because any oppressed people from then all the way to now, and particularly in this country as well as other places on the planet, when the oppressed cry, those people sitting on that wealth, like the pharaohs up like then, and the pharaohs of this land and these governments are going to pay. And you don't want to give us the reparation, that's all right. You just going to feel like just like the pharaohs did. Your civilization going to be wiped out. And look what happened to ancient. Look how long it took to build up ancient Greece and ancient Rome. You think you're gonna keep having us as blacks? The blacks, the one every once in a while you call them a C word, an N word. You think, and these to the people who are the indirect racists as well as the direct racists. You think you're gonna run when you don't know your end is about to come to an end. And people have the eugenics mind. And why don't we just drop a bomb on them? Why don't we just put something? And then some people say, "I'll do something fast. We'll inject them with something. We abort them." You think you're not going to pay in his life? You got another thing coming. So, I hope someone take note of this, and I hope this video will open up somebody's eyes. That's all what it is. Not to blame one person over the other. It's to get to the people who are like that. I'm here because you can show a face, but there's always somebody that God gives them discernment to see what's going through. You can't hide. You can't directly hide. That was the case then. If God didn't, you won't put up on a Christian mindset, then he would. If that was the case, then he could have. At the time, maybe we should have forgive all the pharaohs and forgive all the ones that worship the false gods. They ain't they ain't up there with Jesus. Some of them ain't up there with Jesus, worshiping no false god after they they had their life on this earth. So what makes you think? Because they feel like they were a god. I control these people. I manipulate these people. And I own their spirit. Sound like something what the devil would say. Some of these people have a spirit of the devil in high places, and it will be brought down. And it's coming down now. It's nothing but they're gonna pay for it. Even if they outlive to do the evil on this earth, they're gonna get the worst. They live one day on this earth longer. That's fine. The just will live down here with the unjust. But when all of us go and serve our time in this earthly suit, they're going to have to stand. Imagine you can never die. And you have to suffer. Like in the Bible, suffer and pain. Ooh. Because you've seen different people as property. Because remember, you're the superior race that's supposed to not go last. But your numbers are starting to show. People that look like you was in the city, in the suburbs, overdosing on heroin, drugs. Same thing that was put over the inner cities in America is making sick areas in the rural areas. And it's going to start affecting the areas where the Mitch McConnells of the world and the Rand Pauls and Joe Bidens It's good, healthy, handsome white males and beautiful white women are going to feel the same wrath. Some of them. So let them deny. It's all, the curse is already in the land. And this pandemic is equal to everybody. Storms, the fires is equal to anybody. Look what happened out there in the West Coast. Tulsa, Oklahoma was bombed and burnt to the ground. Black cities and black towns were burnt to the ground. Now you go out there to the West Coast, where little towns in California, Oregon. And it's climate change. The climate caused the fires, and now they're struggling in pain. And there's no glory in seeking someone's suffering, but I'm showing you the consequences. That maybe when in different parts of this country, when they had racism and prejudice, it's starting to tally up to the next generations from that previous generations. So I leave you there. You know, that's okay. That's okay. Just sit back and watch. Sit back and watch what you've done to unjust people. Sit back and watch as the curses keep coming, because this land is already in sin. Sit back and watch, so they can try to close out, deny it. That's fine, but your generation is going to find out. That one's going to be left here. What you did. All children, black, white, brown, tan, and yellow. They're going to find out the truth. And the ones who try and take it out of school, they're going to be shamed for it. And I don't want them to die off. I don't want them to die. I want them to see it. It's like God showed the Pharaohs that day. Before they were taken out. You're going to see this, remember this. What you did. And what you continue to do. Systematically do. You know about the systematically racism. You know about that. But you don't want to repent. So therefore, just like the ancient days of the ancient people, this judgment is coming. Situations is coming. It's coming. But anyway, my name is James. Till next time, I hope I open up someone's eyes and open up someone's ears. Because if people crying loud, it starts telling you, don't get mad, don't ride against them. They're just telling you the truth so you can maybe repent and save your soul. Think about it that way. If you don't repent, then you see the consequences going to hit your household. So, all right, have a good day. Be blessed.